Chien-Pao EX is one of the most hyped up cards to come out of the most recent set, Paldea Evolved. Paldea Evolved is the second set in the Scarlet and Violet expansion and is expected to completely shake up the metagame. Today, we're going to be diving into one of the most powerful water-type attackers, Chien-Pao EX, and exactly how this deck works. This is one of the most hyped up new decks coming out of the brand new set, Paldea Evolved, and I think it has the potential to shine in the new standard format. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as it's the best way to help me out as a creator. All right, let's get into it. Hopping into the main attacker, we have Chien-Pao EX. Water types have remained quite strong over the past couple years with cards like Paldea V-Star, Empoleon V Max, Ice Rider Calyrex V Max, and more patrolling the top tables at tournaments, and they seem to just keep getting better and better. Chien-Pao EX has a very respectable 220 HP, along with one of the most powerful abilities and attacks that we have seen in quite some time. Trembling Cold allows you once during your turn to search your deck for 2 water energies and put them into your hand. However, this ability can only be used if it's in the active spot, so it's important to make sure that you can get this Pokemon in the active as quickly as possible. Its attack, though, is what truly makes it special. Hail Blade for 2 water energy deals 60 damage for each energy that you discarded off your Pokemon in play. Paired up with its fantastic ability Trembling Cold and Baxcalibur, which we'll go into shortly, you should have no problem flooding the board with energies to take massive knockout after knockout. Along with this attack only takes 2 energy, which is really important to note, as you should be able to set this up turn 2 almost every single game, meaning that you should be able to rush down your opponents really quickly with the Hail Blade attack. Every deck needs a support system, and Baxcalibur will be Chien-Pao's engine that makes it function. Baxcalibur, although having a relatively mediocre attack, has one of the most powerful abilities ever put on a Pokemon. Its ability Absolute Zero allows you as often as you would like to attach basic water energy cards from your hand to one of your Pokemon. This will allow us to easily set up our Chien-Pao EX's Hail Blade attack along with our other attackers like Empoleon V and Radiant Greninja. The only negative to Chien-Pao is that sometimes it can be a little bit linear, so having other attackers that you can power up with Baxcalibur like Empoleon and Radiant Greninja will be very important. We've seen this ability before on cards like Blastoise, and it's amazing to see such a powerful effect return to the Pokemon TCG. This card is going to completely reshape how water type decks are built and will have a presence in the standard format for years to come. Water decks are in good hands. Comeback mechanics have always been something that is incredibly important in the Pokemon TCG. Disruption effects have been around for a very long time, as we've seen cards like Judge, Marnie, Roxanne, and more reshape how players build their lists, and we finally have another supporter that is going to reshape the competitive Pokemon TCG. Iono is a hybrid between N and Marnie, and it does not disappoint. Iono reads each player shuffles their hand and puts it at the bottom of their deck. If either player put any cards on the bottom of their deck in this way, each player draws a card for each of the remaining prize cards. This is honestly going to be a staple in most decks, as it provides a fantastic draw support in the early game and gives yourself great comeback potential. I expect almost every deck to play 2 to 4 copies of this card. Back in the day, we saw N be a 3 to 4 of in almost every single deck, and I really think that this card is going to see a similar amount of play. It's really nice to have such a powerful comeback card in the format, and I'm really excited to see how this card is played in other decks. As of right now, I have 2 of in this list, and I think that's totally acceptable. Although Chien-Pao's attack is absolutely incredible, it does have a major drawback. Being forced to discard multiple energy at once when taking knockouts means that this deck can sometimes run out of steam at times. Luckily, we have a card that will prevent this issue. It has been several years since this card has been legal in the standard format, and it works absolutely perfectly in this deck. Superior Energy Retrieval allows you to retrieve 4 energies from the discard pile and put them into your hand. Although you have to discard 2 cards to use this effect, it is well worth it. Paired up with Baxcalibur, you'll be able to easily power back up your water-type Pokemon to finish the games. One of the really cool things about the brand new set Paldea Evolved is that it's bringing back cards of old. This is no exception. You have Super Rod. Super Rod was a card that was very powerful in the standard and expanded format for quite some time, and it's really cool to see it make its way back into the standard competitive Pokemon TCG. Super Rod allows you to shuffle 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. There's going to be some situations where you might have to use a professor's research to discard important pieces to your strategy early on, specifically Pokemon, which you can thus just get back with that Super Rod. And there'll be some situations where you might not necessarily discard very many Pokemon, you just want to get back energies, and that's where the other portion of Super Rod is just so nice. Having that flexibility to kind of choose which one you want to do is really nice. In some situations, you want to have a little bit of a mixture between Pokemon and also energies, and in some situations, you might just want to to put back 3 energy or 3 Pokemon. Having that flexibility is everything in the Pokemon TCG, and this is going to be a great resource recovery card. I expect this to be played in tons of decks in the standard format, and I think will be a staple in most of them. Super odd, one of the best cards from the brand new set, and deserves its spot in this list. Alrighty, hopping into the deck. If you're just looking for the deck list, then feel free to check the description. It will be down there. But I'm going to be kind of going over my reasonings behind certain cards and counts and kind of going over the list in general. We got ourselves a 4-1-4 Baxcalibur line. 4-1-4 has felt totally fine, as your goal is to use Irida to be able to search out rare candy, and Baxcalibur to be able to consistently get that turn to Baxcalibur off every single game, which means that you don't necessarily need a 4-2-4 or 4-3-4 line of the Baxcalibur, because pretty much your entire goal is just to be using that rare candy on turn 2. You could maybe cut the stage 1 to even go up to 4 rare candy. That could be something that you could potentially do, but I think 4-1-4 is the safe count as of right now. We have 4 Chien-Pao EX. The reason why we play 4 is 1, because we don't want to prize multiple and lose instantly because of it, but on top of it, you just always want to start it. Just being able to start the game by getting 2 energies out of your deck and putting them into your hand is really, really important, and also decreases the chances of you starting bad Pokemon like Empoleon, Radiant Greninja, Manaphy, Lumineon. Empoleon's sometimes good to start versus, certain matchups, which we're actually going to as of right now. And Empoleon is really, really good to start off against things like the Lost Zone Toolbox and also Regigigas, which I think Regigigas is going to come back a little bit as of right now, as it is gaining new cards from the new set Paldea Evolved. I think we'll go over Regigigas at some point, but I think that deck is going to come back in some way, shape, or form, and I think that also makes Empoleon even better. But it's mainly here specifically for the Lost Box matchup. Being able to use that Emperor's Eye to shut off Comfey is really, really, really strong. And the reason why you want to play 2 is because you want to get both down in that matchup, so that cards like Escape Rope aren't going to be able to break that Emperor's Eye lock. On top of it, Swirling Slice is a relatively underrated attack, being able to deal 130 and then moving an energy onto one of your other Pokemon, like potentially a Chien-Pao, is really, really, really nice, where you can put it onto Radiant Greninja to potentially set up something like a Moonlight Shuriken. And hopping into Radiant Greninja here, one of the most powerful cards created recently, with that fantastic concealed cards, being able to discard an energy and draw 2. Great for consistency, and also gets energies early into the discard pile, so that things like Superior Energy Retrieval can be used to get those back out. On top of it, Moonlight Shuriken is an amazing attack, being able to either soften up certain Pokemon so Chien-Pao can take knockout after knockout consistently, or wiping the board of things like Comfeys or other small things like Ralts on that second turn, forcing them to put down Manaphy, which can sometimes compromise their board, as they always have to commit 1 spot to Manaphy. Just having that Moonlight Shuriken threat is just so incredibly powerful, but it's mainly going to be here for that concealed cards, just to boost that consistency. Moving on, we have Manaphy with that Wave Veil. Very, very important in the standard format as of right now, as cards like Rapid Strike Urshifu and most importantly Radiant Greninja are prevalent in the format. So just being able to prevent Moonlight Shuriken from your opponent makes Manaphy well worth the spot. And then we have Lumineon with that Luminous Sign, being able to search for a supporter should be able to mean that you can always get out that turn 1 or 2 Irida to be able to get the rare candy. Just being able to get the Lumineon out is really, really important, and I've even considered going up to 2 sometimes in this deck. On top of it, one of the nice things about this card is that you can actually Aqua Return it off the field. Most decks that play Lumineon right now don't actually have that luxury, but since it's being played in a water deck and you can power it up in 1 turn, you can simply just remove it off the field. One of the biggest issues with Lumineon so much of the time is that it's just a sitting easy knockout, and so many players map out their games based around taking down this Lumineon. So that's the Pokemon. Let's hop into the supporters. Moving on to the supporters in this deck, we have 4 Irida. 4 Irida is really, really strong in this deck, in my opinion, as it allows yourself to search out VIP Pass turn 1 consistently, and on top of it, also get cards like Rare Candy. Really, really good in this deck. I think it's a staple, and it is going to be the main supporter card that you use. On top of it, just being able to search out those water Pokemon are going to allow you to develop your board states quickly and consistently as well. Moving on, we have Professor's Research. Currently, I have 2 in the list. I originally had 3, but decided to cut down to 2 because I felt like I didn't necessarily want to be discarding my resources every single turn, and Research seemed like a more of a I have to use this or else I'm going to lose the game card, rather than a I want to use this every single turn card. So as of right now, I think 2 Professor's Research is totally fine. It's pretty good in the early game if you don't have Irida, and I definitely think it deserves its spot as a 2 of. Also, you can get water energies in the discard pile to to then power up that superior energy retrieval that we'll talk about in a little bit. So there's also that reasoning behind that too. Moving on, we have 2 Iono. Iono is a great comeback card in this deck, very similar to the card N, making both players put the hand onto the bottom of the deck and then drawing a card for each prize card that they have taken. Fantastic comeback at the end of the game and also a great draw supporter at the beginning. Definitely could see both research even just be cutting to go up to 4 of the Iono, but I think that 2 is okay as of right now. Double Boss's orders as well, just being able to control your opponent's side of the field is really, really strong. And I think Boss deserves its spot as 2. You could maybe go up to 3 potentially, but I think 2 has just been okay as of right now. You can still snipe things with Radiant Greninja, so always having a gust effect is not necessarily as necessary as it used to be. For VIP Pass as well, VIP Pass very, very strong in this deck, making sure that you have those explosive turn 1s. You want to make sure that you always get Baxcalibur set up on turn 2, and also doesn't hurt to develop a Radiant Greninja, get a Manaphy down versus decks that you might need it. So just having that 4 is really, really good, and you should be able to pull it off almost every single turn 1. Moving on, we got 4 superior energy retrieval. 4 superior energy retrieval, really, really important in a deck like this because your attack discards energies, which means that you're going to want to be able to get those back and attach them all back to your Chien-Pao to be able to take knockout after knockout. The only crux of this card is that you do have to discard 2 cards from your hand. However, typically towards the end of the game when you need to be using this card, you should have a couple extra things that you could discard. That's another reason as to why a 4/1/4 Baxcalibur line is really nice, and also cards like VIP Pass, because you're not going to be using all of them in the game, so you should have easy discards later on in the game. For Nest Ball, just for consistency, consistency is king, really, really important, and I definitely think that 4 is the correct count. You could maybe go down to 3, but then you do, kind of risk losing a little bit of important consistency. Rare Candy, 3 of as of right now. I've considered going up to 4 just so you rely a little bit less on Irida on that second turn. You could maybe cut a Nest Ball for the 4th one. That would be a consideration, but as of right now, I think that 3 Rare Candy is acceptable. Moving on, we have 1 Switch as well. Switch obviously great for utility. I've considered a second one, but also is great so that you can use multiple Chien-Pao's ability per turn. Chien-Pao is an ability that can only be used once per Chien-Pao, so if you use Switch, you're able to get 2 of those effects off for both of the Chien-Paos, which is really, really nice. So that's another reason as to why Switch is relatively decent in this deck. Lost Vacuum, great counter to things like Path to the Peak. Also, just being able to get a stadium out of play that you might not necessarily want in play is just really, really good, or a tool card that they might have on one of their Pokemon. Just great. Allows you to be able to remove things, and also you can always search it out with something like Irida, so it just kind of makes sense. Super Rod, great to be able to recover cards back into the deck, water energy and Pokemon, especially in a deck that discards so many water energy. It's really nice to be able to have another way aside from superior energy retrieval to get them back. Also, oftentimes they might take out important things like Radiant Greninja or Lumineon, so being able to Super Rod those back into the deck to then get more use out of them later on is really, really important. Skater Park as well is a really, really cool card in this deck, and I've been enjoying it. Just allowing all those energies to go back into hand when you're making those retreats is really, really nice, because then you can just reattach them with the Baxcalibur. To be honest, if there was a better stadium card than this, I definitely would include it. There aren't really a whole lot of good stadium cards right now that work with water Pokemon, so I have considered other ones, but I think as of right now, Skater Park is the best one, but there really isn't a whole lot of options. However, if there are more powerful stadium cards that come out that just help out with consistency in general, then Skaters Park might get cut from the list, but as of right now, I think I would say 2 to 3 is probably a good starting point as of right now. But I would say that the stadiums are the most flexible card in this deck, and you could potentially switch them out for something else if you found something that you preferred a little bit more than Skaters Park. And then last but not least, we got the 11 energy. I think 11 is the perfect count. If you want to add a little bit more consistency in being able to find them early on, you could maybe go up to 12, but I think that 11 is the sweet spot. But with that being said, that is going to be my list. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed this style of video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out as a content creator, and it's the best way to support me. Thank you so much for all the support on the most recent videos. Really, really excited to hop into more Paldea Evolved content. But with that being said, that's going to do it for me today. If you enjoyed the content, thank you so much, and I'll speak with you again soon. Peace out, everyone.